A caterpillar crawls into a chrysalis. 2 weeks later, a butterfly flies out. Think about how strange that is. It is the same individual with same genome, same organism, but the mouthpart have been rebuilt, the legs replaced, wings have appeared where there were none, and the entire digestive system have been replumbed for a completely different diet. Inside that chrysalis, much of the larval body is broken down and reassembled. Now here's the question that actually matters for your exam. What decides when this happens? Why does caterpillar molt into a bigger caterpillar 4 times? And then on the 5th molt becomes something else entirely? The answer is a beautifully simple hormonal switch. And by the end of this video, you will be able to predict that outcome of any molt just by knowing the level of one hormone. We'll cover 4 types of metamorphosis first, and then the hormonal control that governs all of them. So let's talk about what is metamorphosis and why does insects need it. Metamorphosis is the transformation of an immature larval individual into a sexually mature reproducing adult. The word itself comes from Greek. Meta means change, morphe means form, that is change of form. But before the types, let's understand the constraint that makes all of this necessary. An insect is wrapped in a rigid, non-living cuticle, which is the exoskeleton. It is made largely of chitin and protein, and it is secreted by underlying epidermis, and critically, it cannot grow. So an insect faces a problem no vertebrate has ever faced. It is living inside a suit of armor that will not expand. The only way to get bigger is to shed the old cuticle and secrete a new larger one. That process is called molting or ecdysis. Each molt is a genuine developmental opportunity. The epidermis is going to build a brand new cuticle anyways. So it can build one that is simply bigger, or it can build one that is structurally different, with wings, with different mouth parts, with genitalia. The stage between two molts is called an instar, and the final sexually matured adult is called imago. Now let's talk about the first type of metamorphosis, that is ametabolous development. This first type is ametabolous development, also called no metamorphosis. A means without, metabol means change, that is without change. Here's the newly hatched creature looks like an adult except in size and in difference in the amatures of spines and setae. Two things differ between juvenile and adult. First one is the size, and second one is armature of spine and setae. The size of juvenile is simply smaller, and the pattern and the arrangement of bristles and hairs on cuticle differ slightly. That's all. There's no larva, no lymph, no pupa, just a miniature adult that gets larger. And a good example is wingless insect. These are called Apterogyta, the primitive wingless insects such as silverfish and springtails. And notice that logic, these insects never employed wings in the first place. So there is no wing development to accommodate. Nothing needs to be transformed. The next type we are going to talk about is hemimetabolous development or incomplete metabolous development. Hemi means half and metabolous means change, that is half change. Here the immature stage are called nymphs, which are aquatic and respire by tracheal gills, while the adults are terrestrial and they respire by trachea. And critically, there is no pupa. That is a big deal. The juvenile and the adult live in a completely different habitats and use completely different respiratory structures. So the transformation here is genuinely dramatic. An aquatic gill-breathing animal becoming a flying air-breathing one. And yet it happens gradually across successive molts with no pupal stage to hide inside. The change is spread out rather than concentrated. Because they are so different from terrestrial nymphs, aquatic immature stages are specifically called naiads. The third type we are going to talk about is Paurometabolous development, or also known as gradual metamorphosis. Pauro means little, so that is Paurometabolous will be little change. Here, the newly hatched creature resembles an adult in general body form, but lacks wings and external genital appendages. Again, there is no pupa. So what is missing in this juvenile? Exactly two things: wings and external genital appendages. Everything else, body shape, mouth part, legs, habitat, diet, is essential adult-like from day one. Here, so the question arises, how does it become an adult? The answer would be, the young nymph undergoes several nymphal stages through successive molting to become an adult. At each molt, the wing pads grow a little larger, developing externally on the outside of the body, until at the final molt they become fully functional wings and genitalia matures. A good example would be grasshoppers, aphids, sting bugs, and cockroaches. The next type would be holometabolous development. Finally, the most advanced and most successful type. It is also known as complete metamorphosis. Holo means complete, that is, complete metamorphosis. It involves 4 developmental stages: egg, larva, pupa, and adult. Let's just walk through the life cycle. The egg hatches into a larva, and note that this larva looks nothing whatsoever like the adult. A caterpillar, a maggot, a grub, different body plan, different mouth parts, often a different diet and habitat entirely. The larva, after hatching, molts several times, passing through several larval instars until it's fully grown. During this whole phase, the larva is essentially a feeding and growing machine. The fully grown larva then becomes a pupa within a secreted case. In the housefly and other higher flies, this hardened case is specifically called the puparium. Puparium is in higher flies, it is the hardened last larval cuticle retained around the pupa. And chrysalis, the naked hardened pupa of a butterfly. And a cocoon is a silk case spoon by the larva, as in the mouth, which is in the silkworms. Now, the pupa differentiates into the younger adults, which breaks the case open and emerges outside. This emergence is called eclosion. So the adult is not a modified larva. It is grown fresh from reserved stem cell population. Using the dismantled larva as raw material, note also that the wings develops internally here. Hence the group name called Endopterygoeta. Unlike the external wings pads of Paurometabolous nymphs. Now the second half, the mechanism. What actually triggers a molt and what decides whether that molt produces a bigger larva, a pupa, or an adult? The answer involves 4 hormones produced along a neuroendocrine axis in the insect's head and the thorax. And these glands are the protocerebrum, the forebrain containing neurosecretory center, the corpora cardiaca and corpora alata. Together these form the retrocerebral complex, a pair of small glands sitting just behind the brain. And the last one is prothoracic gland in the thorax. Now let's talk about the 4 hormones. First one is brain hormone. Brain hormone is secreted by the neurosecretory cells of the brain. Specifically in the protocerebellum, it activates corpora cardiaca. This is the entry point of the whole cascade. The brain integrates environmental cues like day length, temperature, nutritional status, the size of the body, and when conditions are right, it fires the signal that starts a molt. The next hormone is prothoracicotropic hormone, which is also known as PTTH. Prothoracico means the prothoracic gland, plus tropic means acting upon, a hormone that acts on the prothoracic gland. This hormone is secreted by corpora cardiaca and it stimulates the prothoracic gland. Prothoracic gland, which is ecdysone. This hormone is secreted by the paired bilateral sheet of the cells in the thoracic constituting the prothoracic glands. Chemically, it is ecdysone. Ecdysone triggers molting. Chemically, ecdysone is a steroid. The active form in the tissue is 20-hydroxyecdysone. It acts on the epidermis, causing it to detach from the old cuticle and secrete a new one. The last hormone, juvenile hormone. This hormone is secreted by another component of the retrocerebral complex, the corpora allata. Chemically, it is non-steroidal lipid, specifically a sesquiterpenoid, which is why it's distinct from the steroid ecdysone. Juvenile hormone regulates metamorphosis, that is, it controls the nature of the transformation. Now let's see how the switch actually works. Juvenile hormone maintains juvenile characters. As long as juvenile hormone is present at a high level in the blood, every molt triggered by ecdysone produces another juvenile. The tighter the concentration of juvenile hormone is what decides the outcome. So the caterpillar that molts 4 times into bigger caterpillar is bathed in high juvenile hormone each time. In the final larval instar, the corpora allata switches off. Juvenile hormone falls away, and the very next surge of ecdysone, now unopposed, produces a pupa instead of another caterpillar. With juvenile hormone essentially gone, the next mouthpart produces the adult. That's the switch, one hormone rising and falling, and the same molting signals produces 3 completely different outcomes. Now let's quickly recap what we have learned today. We have learned 4 types of metamorphosis: Ametabolous, Hemimetabolous, Paurometabolous, Holometabolous. Ametabolous. There is no metamorphosis. Juvenile differs only in size and setae, and these are wingless insects. Hemimetabolous. These are incomplete metamorphosis. Aquatic nymphs with tracheal gills and terrestrial adults with trachea. There is no pupa, and these are seen in mayfly, dragonfly, stonefly. Paurometabolous. These are gradual metamorphosis. Nymph resembles adult but lacks wings and external genitalia. There is no pupa, and these are seen in grasshopper, cockroach, aphids. And last, Holometabolous. Complete metamorphosis. Egg, larva, pupa, adult. And it is seen in housefly, mosquito, and butterfly. And hormonal control was one cascade. Brain hormone activates corpora cardiaca, releases prothoracic hormone, which stimulates the prothoracic gland and secrete ecdysone, which triggers molting, while juvenile hormone from corpora allata determines whether that molt yields a juvenile, a pupa, or an adult. Ecdysone says molt now. Juvenile hormone says molt into what? If the hormonal switch finally makes sense now, that's exactly what our channel is for. And keep learning, keep achieving. I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.